have communities used the arts to stay connected and resilient during COVID-19? How do the arts play a role in social justice movements around the world? MindLeaps Executive Director Rebecca Davis leads this next discussion with two American choreographers alongside Reggie Van Lee to look at the adaptations of and gravitation towards the arts during COVID-19 and Black Lives Matter. Over to you, Rebecca.
Hello, and we're very welcome. We're very pleased to be with the Ubumuntu Arts Festival this afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here with an esteemed group of panelists. My name is Rebecca Davis, and I'm the Executive Director of MindLeaps, an organization working in Rwanda and in other countries to promote the lives of vulnerable youth. And I have the opportunity to be here this afternoon, this morning, this evening, depending on your time zone, with a group of friends and leaders and advisors to me. So I couldn't be happier to be here sharing the screen with Ubumuntu Arts Festival this year. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to take a moment to introduce each of our panelists. If I could ask each of you to say a few sentences about yourself and what Rwanda means to you. One of the things that we wanted to do with this time that we have together is share with all of you our love of this amazing country and the people that make Rwanda so special. So first and foremost, Reggie Van Lee. Reggie has been a good friend of MindLeaps. He's a co-founder of the Clinton Global Initiative. Right now, he's the Chief Transformation Officer at the Carlyle Group, having followed that with a career at Booz Allen Hamilton. Reggie, thank you so much for being with us this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Should I go on now?
Yeah, we would love to hear a little bit more about you and your fascination, your passion, and your contributions to Rwanda.
Well, first, I'm delighted to be here. I do love Rwanda. I am not only a person who is now in the corporate world, but I'm a recovered dancer from many, many years ago. Started my ballet training when I was 4 years old and danced for many years as a student, 1 year professionally, and then made a turn into the corporate world, but found that the training that I got in my dancing career, the discipline, the poise, the connection to the audience was so important to my business career as well. So I've really continued to benefit from my dance background and certainly continue to enjoy and support as a patron the dance. Rwanda, I visited 15, 20 years ago and have fallen in love with the country from my very first visit. The hope that Rwanda provides to the world is what is most impressive to me. What the country has gone through and still the positive nature of the people is so important and something that the world could learn from. So I love Rwanda and I love MindLeaps, and delighted to be here today.
Thank you so much, Reggie. And I introduced Reggie by saying the first and foremost, and now I'm going to introduce my second panelist by saying the second and foremost, because we have three incredible people here today. So Royce Zackery. Royce, I know that you've been busy running the dance department at Howard University in Washington, D.C., and somehow in your spare time, you've come twice to Rwanda, working as a choreographer and a teacher, and that follows also a long professional dance career. Could you share with us a little bit more about yourself and again, your passion for Rwanda?
You pretty much just said everything in a nutshell. Yeah, I started dancing when I was 15, 16. So now 25 years later, I guess you can do the math. I love teaching. I work with for the Washington Ballet now, as well as run the dance department here at Howard University as the artistic director. So it just my role has actually shifted to artistic direction from actually doing a head coordinated department, so I could focus on my tenure, which I just received. Just received that, so that actually, yeah, thank you for that. And my experiences with Rwanda have been nothing but phenomenal. There's not enough time to really talk about it. Thank you very much for Rebecca for inviting me into this world of MindLeaps and also Rwanda. The people are just resilient, which is one of our topics, and they connecting with internationally and globally and bringing the arts into societies to help bring awareness and strength and power to the world on a global level. So it's it's very rewarding. Yeah.
Phenomenal, I think, is a perfect word choice to describe Rwanda.
Mm-hmm.
And here we go, our third and foremost panelist, LaMar Baylor. LaMar and I go back too long. Royce, then if we start to do the math with the dates that LaMar and I are going to give, everyone is going to start to pull out their cane, I think. LaMar has been, of course, a professional dancer with Philadelphia, moved into Broadway, featured in Disney's The Lion King, has been the artistic consultant with MindLeaps for several years, and is the newest member of MindLeaps Board of Trustees, which means that I get to work with LaMar even more, which is amazing. LaMar, please share with us a few words.
Yeah, thank you, first of all, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to be here with you all and speak on this topic and speak on this country that has a near and dear place in my heart. I absolutely love Rwanda for not only its culture, but its existence, its ability to move past post-genocide, and the children that I have had the opportunity to work with, and not only kids of our program, but refugees as well, and getting the opportunity to choreograph for the Ubumuntu Festival last summer really touched my life and made me feel even more grateful for the opportunity to be able to reach and give back, but also the fact that while I was reaching back, they were reaching and touching me and my heart in ways that I can't even fully describe, but I'm more than grateful for the chance and the opportunity to have gotten to work with them.
Thank you. As you know, Hope Azeda is the genius behind Ubumuntu Arts Festival, and the word Ubumuntu in Kinyarwanda means humanity. And I think both with COVID and the social justice movements that are gaining force around the world today, at least speaking from my own perspective, the word humanity means something different to me today than it did on March 15th. And I think one of the things that I've tried to pull on to understand our changing world and what MindLeaps can do is to really go back to those Rwandan experiences where we've seen youth, a country, a government fight against impossible obstacles to build a society that is harmonious. And I know Royce and LaMar, you've spent time really working with some of the youth in Rwanda who have this vision of future and justice in their communities. And I wonder what your experiences are there and how you compare that to the social justice movement, the Black Lives Matter movement in our country right now. Maybe either of you could share a couple more thoughts on that.
LaMar, you want to start?
I was going to let you start.
Royce has to start.
Oh, okay, that's good. I would have to say my experience working with the teaching artists, I would say, in Rwanda, and listening to their story, their personal stories. Just to give a little background, I worked with 11 artists from 5 different countries, and the bulk of the communication was actually through the movement, because not everyone was able to communicate and speak with one another. I think only 3 people were able to speak everyone's language. And so there was just in that space itself was a lot of conflict actually at the very beginning of our process. Just because of some of those different barriers. But as we got further and further along, and they actually learned about some of the injustices and the things that we are going through here. A lot of them didn't even realize that we lived in this bubble, and America was this phenomenal place with no issues, no problems, no things. And to hear what the work I was bringing was talking about, some social justices that are happening here, surprised them. So for me, that was eye-opening as to how other places like in the world actually view, I guess for so long, America and the culture and what actually was going on here. So they were learning about about some of the things that we were actually going through during my time there. And also something else that happened that through the movement and through what the movement was standing for, and the work that I brought there, and the work that I brought there was dealing with the massacre, the 2017 massacre that happened in North Carolina with Mother Emanuel, the church, the killings there. And so them embodying and then them taking their own personal experiences to embody the movement. How do you, how do you fit, and how do you mold yourself into what are your experiences and the stories that they have? You would never know that they're going through these things, because they were just such beautiful, like, human beings, and just giving and just loving, I won't say creatures, but loving people. So for me, the experiences was definitely twofold. You would never know some of the things that they've gone through, and how they carry themselves and how they project themselves. And I feel that's starting to happen, culturally. And I feel that's starting to happen with us here in all the states, and then also on a global level as well. I don't want to talk too long, but yeah.
Royce and I have reflected on this after he choreographed Babel 2 years ago in Rwanda. And I told Royce this story recently when one of the students came up to me afterwards, and he said, Rebecca, can you explain the piece one more time that Royce was choreographing? Because I thought everybody was equal in the US. Mm-hmm. And that distance, and yet some of those shared experiences that somehow we have to weave together better between our countries. LaMar, maybe you can also share some thoughts on your work in Rwanda, and also how that's made you see the social justice movement in our country a little bit differently or similarly.
Yeah, I'm going to do my best to hold back my tears sometimes, because when I speak about what's going on in Rwanda, and that the youth that we work with, that I had the opportunity to work with, the things that they are facing, and the things that they are now the result of that ethnic cleansing through the genocide, when to know that sometimes it feels that way in America, that there is this kind of ethnic cleansing or wiping out of black people, whether it be male or female. It feels as though there is an attack on our race. And these refugees, these children are products of a genocide. And they are the result of a genocide, but they're navigating and trying to figure it out. And when I got the opportunity to choreograph, and I choreographed to John Legend's Motherless Child, and it was a moment that the words in the song that says, like, who has a shoulder when I need to cry, feel helpless and I don't know why. And I cry for help and still feel alone, like a motherless child a long way from home. And I feel like in both of our countries, we're dealing with these things. And those words alone speak so much value and depth, but also so much connection between us. And to hear, like Royce said, to hear these kids and these refugees speak about their experiences and the things that they go through on the daily, but also to think about what our country, and as a Black man, what we deal with on a daily, they tie together. They are equally linked, and just, it is difficult. It's difficult, but to watch these, you didn't want to call them creatures, Royce, but to watch them bring movement very creature-like, and to tell those stories and to share those stories with the public and with the masses was an amazing opportunity.
Yeah. Reggie, you already alluded to it a little bit in your introduction, where your experiences with the arts have actually informed you as a business leader. And I know that you've shared with me, as you've advised me and helped me build MindLeaps over the years, some of the key takeaways about humanity, about resiliency, about persistency, about equality that you've taken from Rwanda and been part of your entire life, working on the boards of major arts organizations, but also in your professional business career. I wonder where you see those social justice lessons that you've had in Rwanda and the ties back to our country now.
Well, as I said before, Rwanda for me represents hope. And as others have said, the sort of positivity of a people who have gone through the things they've gone through, and the fact that they didn't let the oppressor steal their joy. That while you can strike out against oppression and do all those things you need to do to get the sort of equality and equity that you deserve, you don't have to do it in a way that creates bitterness on your part, or negativity on your part, or hopelessness on your part. And so as we are confronted, newly confronted or just reminded of the sort of issues that we're going through in America, I'm doing it in a way that does it in a positive way and sees that there's hope to what we can do. And I don't let my joy be stolen in the moment. That's something that I always wanted to do, but I saw it so clearly at my time in Rwanda, and saw how people can not just talk about it theoretically, but actually exercise this notion of hope and positivity. So it's been inspiring for me, and it's something I tell many others. As you know, I do these big birthday trips every year around the world, and many years ago we went to Rwanda, and it changed the lives of not only me, but the people in my group. I mean, many of them really fell in love with Rwanda then, because we could see in the face of the oppression, the fact that one can have hope and positivity. So that's the lesson I learned from Rwanda and carry with me.
Reggie, one of the reasons why I'm so lucky to have you with us this afternoon is every time I hear you say even 5 sentences together, I learn something. So I have many takeaways already for me personally. Thank you. One of the things that ties to this comment right now is that, you know, what's exciting about Rwanda, I think, for a lot of us is that it's real. It's not a history textbook and then you get a paper about it, right? The people you meet, the country you visit, the projects you see, and like even Ubumuntu itself is a testament to this resiliency, that we're not going to talk about it or reflect on it negatively. We're just forward. And of course that comes from, but it's across the entire country. And I think that's also something we've seen with Rwanda during COVID. It's amazing to me that we have MindLeaps kids who are former students who are going to perform a live stream festival tomorrow in Kigali. I rehearsed groups of 3, who knows where they found a little spot they can do it. And yet we see that these children, these youth, these communities just make it work. Genocide during the middle of COVID, it goes forward. I wonder, LaMar, if you could think a little bit about the COVID period for you, right? What does that mean for an artist? And again, the connection where we derive that power and that inspiration from Rwanda. And I know you've carried forward your career during COVID in the United States. Tell us a little bit about how, when your stage is taken away on Broadway, you still smile here today.
I mean, we've said it, you know, I mean, Ubumuntu means hope. And I take that with me, you know, like the hope that we, you know, that I will get back to the stage one day, that Broadway will reopen. And though it is a time where I don't feel alone, because all artists, and not just artists, but teachers and students and everyone except our essential workers, are without their jobs, you know, or without the place that they need to continue on their journey, you know, like through life. And I am hopeful that, you know, Broadway will return, and it will. But I, you know, like the thing that I do carry with me every day is that hope that everybody is okay, that everyone is still doing the things that they can do, and taking advantage of the gifts that we do have in the world that can still connect us and bring us together.
And I think another element of COVID that we've seen everywhere, and it's definitely in the United States too, back to the economy, of course. And Reggie, there's communities in need. There's communities that need to recover and rebuild and create equality. And with COVID, economic resources go down. How do we make sense of that? And what do we tell our children? What do we tell our artists? What do we find in ourselves to not let that beat us down?
Well, one advantage to being one of the oldest people in the room is you've gone through many experiences in life. And so I've gone through, as people talked about the notion of we have to wear the mask and we can't interact with people. I remember the days when if you were flying, you could actually walk friends onto airplanes and say goodbye to them and then leave the airplane. There was no security you had to go through. There was no taking your shoes off and all this sort of stuff. And so some of what we're going through is an inconvenience, but we got used to it. And now, kids now don't know anything other than going through the airport and having to go through security and metal checks and that sort of thing. So the mortality issue is something you don't get over. But the inconvenience that we go through in COVID and its impact on economics, the impact on the economics of the airline industry and the travel industry when those security measures were first put in place, especially in the United States after September 11th, were things that were really detrimental to the economy, but the economy comes back. And so the mortality doesn't come back, but all the other things can come back. And you have to try to take a longer term perspective and say, this too, we will get through. And if you have that attitude, you get through it better and faster than if you try to hold on to the old world. Some of those old worlds would never return. And sometimes there were things about the old world that wasn't so great anyway. So you just have to move forward.
That's why we hang out with you, Reggie. You get to move forward faster. In another time, a few weeks ago, Royce and I were comparing who had the most cool friend group. But Reggie, you would have taken the prize.
Yes.
Present company included.
Yeah. Definitely.
Royce.
I'm just glad to be in the number.
Aren't we all? Aren't we all?
Also, I just wanted to piggyback on what my fellow colleagues are saying, and also, I guess, looking at it from, an artist point of view of how we're still able to function, I guess, as artists. I think art, just for me personally, and I think for a lot of us who are artists, art, activism, and community, right? Those things are just instilled within us as being artists, period, and then having platforms and also spreading those things to the world. I think is just something that we are always drawn to do and will always do, right? Coming from a place of sincerity as to when we are expressing ourselves through our art and giving it to the world, right? So art is one of the only places, right, that where we can bring all these different people of different cultures together who disagree on so many different things, like in life, outside of that space or outside of that bubble, but can come into that space because this is one thing that we agree on, and we can talk about these changes, talk about these injustices, and voice these things, and bring people to maybe think a little bit more, right, in this confined space, right, but also in a peaceful space, and we would just one of the things we talk about, right? I think about today is about resilience, and then adaptation, and then also what's the other word? Gravitation. So now we have to gravitate to social media, right? And then so we are adapting how we are sending our messages versus being face to face and touching one another and having that type of physical contact. But now we're doing it on a different level, which also brings, I think, people who don't know us and don't know other people who are behind the scenes and not in Hollywood, not in commercial life, who are still doing these things, art activists, and throughout the community. You get to hear all these different people's voices through who's a platform, Camille A. Brown, that's off the top of my head. She has so many different people from all walks of art, like on her page and her channel, like every single day of the week. And then there's, I forget it, some kind of the thread dealing with Jamal's story and Brooks, and then also Mr. Hunt. So there are different ways that people are doing it. Talking about gravitation, and then also adapting to the times that we have now, bringing people closer and closer, to bring us together. So we, like artists, we find a way, right? We always find a way. to do the things and to spread that message and our joy and to connect with the world and the community.
I've heard another one of our mutual friends, Nicole Correa, say recently, artists find a way, dancers find a way.
Yeah.
That's something that we see in Ubumuntu and the kids in Rwanda. And it really, exactly what you're saying is, if you really want to move forward and you have that positive mind, you'll find them. You know, there's a path to be found. I also love, Royce, what you say. You know, this time of COVID, dancers, I think especially, it's made us think. We're in a confined space. We can't do our big soda shots. We can't do big leaps. But yet we can really think about our craft and why we do what we do. How powerful can that be? And as to Royce, and it brings different communities together. And if we tap into that power with positive mindset, with this hope that we can take from Rwanda, imagine how far the arts can contribute to the social justice movement. I know we just have a few minutes left, but what I'd like to ask each of us to do these final moments is share the voices of everyone we've worked with, and all of you, with so many different people and individuals and communities who you saw change because of these things that we've been talking about. Sometimes we get to be here on social media and we get to hear our voices, but we also have this power to give voice to those other youth who not have the chance to in a panel conversation. The stories I've told before is from Emmanuel Ahimana, who's one of our Rwanda street child. And similar to you, Reggie, when we did these sits a couple years ago and I was going up the hill sweating a lot, we took the little thing that he was in and we sat on the floor, and Emmy to me and he said, "Rebecca, do you understand why I am the way I am?" I said, "Okay, tell me, Emmy." He said, "I'm strong because I'm human." And I think there's something powerful about that, and especially that he says it in the present tense. And how can we be strong even if we're broken? I wonder, Reggie, if you could share with us one of the stories of the many individuals you've worked with in so many walks of life who had that moment where you saw the resiliency.
Well, I was blessed enough, due to my connection with President Bill Clinton, to have tea with Nelson Mandela on one of my trips, my birthday trip to South Africa. And I have met many, many, many people who are impressive, who are celebrities, all of that sort of stuff. But that was the most moving experience in my life, to sit with Mr. Mandela. And it was interesting because I was hungry to hear about him and his life, and he was hungry to hear about me and my life. I mean, the humility of this man to want to know anything about what I was doing was just so amazing to me. So for me, that notion of not only intelligent and well-meaning and a real fighter for the world, but a person that had that level of humility. And so no matter how much I achieve in life, I'm always remembering that if Nelson Mandela could be that humble with me, I can be humble with the world. And that's the lesson that has impacted me the most.
That's beautiful. LaMar, can you share with us a short story?
Yeah, I've had the ability to work for a dance pioneer, a living legend. Her name is Jo Myers Brown, and I've watched her build her company, but for the opportunities for Black and Brown dancers to have access to the arts and to dance. And watching her literally pave a way and create a lane for not herself at all. The humility of her to want to do this for her people of her race and people of her kind and people who looked like her, because she was able to have those opportunities, is the best lesson that I've ever received and ever been able to learn and been able to carry with me, because she always tells us that we have nothing to prove, but everything to share. And with that, it carries me throughout my day and it has throughout my life, and I'm very grateful for it.
It is a perfect way to share. Okay, Royce, can you close us out with one moment that you had with somebody that really made you that resilient?
You're on mute.
I'm going to say Battle Ethnic Dance Company, the founding members, Waverly Lucas and Nina Gilreath, who are from Dance of the Harlem but moved to Atlanta, Georgia. They are the reason that I'm able to do the things that I'm doing today. They believe in me from like day one. When I was told I couldn't do it, they had the patience. I'm coming from like the football field and basketball, couldn't touch my toes, but they just worked with me and were very patient. And I said that if I ever get the chance to give back to this community, I'm going to remember that I was once not wanted. I was once not given a chance, and I would never forget these moments of the things that they instilled in me as an artist, as a human being. So I would say, and this is the 30th year anniversary actually right now, this year. So I would say Ethnic, Dance Company.
Beautiful memory to share with all of you. Thank you so much, every one of you. You've been a huge part of my life and the world of MindLeaps, and we are so grateful for you sharing your wisdom with me and with all of us at Ubumuntu Arts. We move forward with the hope, with the positivity, and remembering to be humble and strong and resilient in our path.